Out of hundreds of episodes, only a few Simpsons characters have been taken out for good. No comeback, no cameo, no cartoon reset. Some of these farewells were emotional, others caught fans off guard, and a few revealed something deeper about the world of Springfield. Today we're breaking down every one of them, and what made their exits hit harder than expected. Starting with Mona Simpson. Homer always carried a quiet ache he couldn't explain, and that ache had a name, Mona Simpson. She drifted in and out of his life like a shadow he could never hold on to. As a young activist, she sabotaged one of Mr. Burns' secret labs and disappeared to avoid arrest, leaving Homer with questions he never got answers to. Every reunion that followed felt warm, but temporary. The kind of moment you replay long after it's gone. She'd show up, comfort him, promise safety, and vanish again before dawn.
Don't forget me!
Don't worry, Homer. You'll always be a part of me.
Don't!
Then came the episode that shattered him. Mona returned one last time, older, tired, and ready to stop running. She told Homer she was done with hiding, that she wanted to stay for good. But after years of broken exits, Homer couldn't trust the moment. His frustration spilled out, and he pushed her away without realizing how little time they had left.
You left a hole in my heart that could never be filled, so I filled it with food.
Hours later, with an apology card in his hand, he found her seated by the fireplace, quiet, still, and gone. Her final request sent Homer on a strange mission that unknowingly ruined another one of Burns' schemes. Even in death, Mona kept fighting for something bigger. But for Homer, all that remained was the sting of words he never got to say.
I just wish she hadn't died thinking I hated her.
And a silence he couldn't repair. Homer's loss showed how deeply a quiet goodbye can reshape a family, but not every departure in Springfield was handled with the same tenderness. And no moment proved that more sharply than what happened to Maude Flanders. Maude's exit is still one of the most bizarre moments the show ever delivered, mostly because it came out of nowhere, and for reasons that had nothing to do with the story. The Flanders family was enjoying a day at the racetrack, and Homer, being Homer, was causing commotion in the stands. When a group started firing t-shirt cannons toward his direction, Homer bent down at the worst possible moment. The shirts blasted straight into Maude instead, knocking her backward over the railing. 1 second she was cheering, and the next she was gone. It looked absurd on screen, almost cartoonishly careless, but the real reason behind it was far messier. Maude's voice actress asked for her pay to be raised after flying out every week to record. Instead of meeting her halfway, the studio offered a tiny increase, and she walked away. With no backup plan, the writers removed Maude entirely and did it in a way that felt more like a punchline than a farewell. For Ned, though, the fallout wasn't funny at all. Overnight, he became a widower with 2 young boys and a grief arc the show never fully softened. His overly cheerful personality cracked, revealing someone trying his best to stay steady while carrying a hurt he didn't ask for. And from that point on, nothing in his household looked the same. Maude's exit was a disaster caused by flying shirts, bad timing, and Homer being, well, Homer. But if that felt chaotic, the next story is about a guy who tried to treat Springfield like a normal town. That poor soul was Frank Grimes. Frank Grimes wasn't built for Springfield. He was a man shaped by hardship, the kind who clawed his way through every obstacle with grit and discipline. When he arrived at the nuclear plant, he expected a workplace that rewarded effort and respected competence. Instead, he found Homer Simpson, carefree, clumsy, and somehow thriving in a world that made no sense to someone like Grimes.
God, I've had to work hard every day of my life, and what do I have to show for it? This briefcase and this haircut. And what do you have to show for your lifetime of sloth and ignorance?
What?
Everything!
Every disaster Homer caused, every accolade he stumbled into, pushed Grimes closer to the edge. What made this episode stand out was how painfully real Grimes felt. He reacted the way an actual person might if they were dropped into a universe where logic never mattered. The more he tried to expose Homer's carelessness, the more Springfield brushed it off with a shrug. That disconnect drove him into a spiral. In his final moments, he mocked Homer by copying his habits.
I can be lazy too! Look at me! I'm a worthless employee, just like Homer Simpson! Give me a promotion!
Wandering around the plant with reckless confidence. Then he grabbed a set of live wires, because Homer does it all the time. At his funeral, Homer muttered in his sleep and the crowd laughed.
Change the channel, Marge!
That's our Homer!
Missing the entire point of Grimes's frustration. His death wasn't just dark, it was a reminder that Springfield rewards chaos and crushes anyone who takes the world too seriously. Frank Grimes showed what happens when someone tries to force order onto a town built on nonsense. His story was loud, uncomfortable, and ended in a way nobody could shrug off. But not every loss in Springfield came with that kind of intensity. Some slipped in quietly, leaving a softer ache behind. And for Lisa, that ache came from the one person who understood her better than anyone else, Bleeding Gums Murphy. Murphy wasn't just another side character. He was the first person who truly understood Lisa. He encouraged her talent when nobody else bothered, taught her how to pour emotion into every note, and became the mentor she never asked for but desperately needed. That's why his death felt so heavy, even though it happened off-screen. In Round Springfield, Lisa learns the truth from a doctor who casually explains that Murphy passed away from health complications. No warning, no dramatic buildup, just an empty hospital room and the echo of a man who shaped her childhood. Their final moment together was a soft, bittersweet jam session, a goodbye she didn't realize was happening until it was over. When the funeral came, Lisa honored him the only way she knew how, playing her saxophone as his spirit drifted through the clouds beside familiar pop culture silhouettes voiced by the same actor.
You've made an old jazz man happy, Lisa.
It was the show's first reminder that loss doesn't need grand spectacle to hurt. It can be quiet, sudden, and deeply personal. For Lisa, it was the moment innocence slipped away. For viewers, it proved that The Simpsons wasn't afraid to let a joke sit in the background while the sadness took center stage. Murphy's passing showed how a single moment of silence can hit harder than any dramatic twist, but not every farewell in Springfield carried that kind of spotlight. Some Springfield goodbyes happened quietly, almost slipping past the audience. Larry the Barfly is the perfect example. He sat at Moe's for decades, barely speaking, barely noticed. When the show finally focused on him, it revealed something unexpectedly sad. Larry thought Homer was his closest friend, even though Homer barely recognized him. His death hit with a strange kind of heaviness, showing how someone can be surrounded by people yet still fade unnoticed. Edna Krabappel's exit carried an entirely different weight. When actress Marcia Wallace passed away, the show chose not to recast her. They didn't dramatize it or create some wild storyline. They simply showed Ned alone again, wearing the grief that had become an unfortunate part of his life. Later episodes used old recordings to let Edna speak one last time, letting Bart remember her not as the frustrated teacher, but as the one adult who genuinely believed he could do better. Then there's Alice Glick, the cranky elderly neighbor whose exit slipped by almost unnoticed. She didn't go out in some chaotic mishap or wild storyline. Her death happened quietly during a church service. In the middle of Reverend Lovejoy's sermon, she slumped forward onto the organ, and it was later confirmed she had passed away. It was a quick gag with surprisingly permanent consequences. And of course, original Fat Tony didn't survive his heart giving out. It would have been a major shift in Springfield's underworld if the writers hadn't replaced him instantly with a near-perfect twin cousin who stepped into the role like nothing happened. It blurred the line between death and continuity, leaving fans unsure whether to treat it as a genuine loss or just another Springfield oddity. And that's every character The Simpsons has killed off over the years. It's interesting how even small characters can leave a mark once they're gone. If you enjoyed this one, definitely go watch my newest video covering the scary Simpsons predictions for 2026.